Lending institutions today are focused on infrastructure and have made ESG part of the financing requirement. One of the very important principles that are used, there are different ways project financing or different tools that they use to achieve this. Some will request for the ASM framework of the World Bank, some will request for the IFC performance standard, some will request for the Equator Principles. So organizations that are signatories to the Equator Principles will typically request for that. And while some may request for the IFC performance standard, we'll see that they are all very similar. But to look at the Equator Principles, what are the benefits? What can tell us here what the benefits of applying the Equator Principles or complying to the Equator Principles is to our projects? Can anybody try?
My name is Jose. So I was going to say the benefit for applying the Equator Principle, the IFC standard, is that it gives the project lenders or other stakeholders a strong, they're able to see that you provided a structured approach to dealing with environmental, social, and governance issues. So there are specific points in the IFC and Equator Principle standards that you address specifically and you have answers to. So it gives comfort, that is a comprehensive and holistic approach to dealing with environmental and social risk.
Fantastic. So basically, it gives the structure. It helps to see straight forward that, this person has been able to comply with the criteria of the principles, and then they know if this project is attractive to funding or not. So typically, to have that stamp of approval and make our project attractive to investors, it's important to apply these principles. And also, it makes our projects environmentally and socially balanced, because we all know when we're looking at the projects, we are looking at the profits. We also must be looking at the planet and the people. It is only when those three tripods are appropriately satisfied that the project can be sustainable right into the future. If there's a tilt in any of the three areas, then we're going to have issues. And rightly said, all those three components are important. The people must continue to exist and have appropriate welfare. The planet must continue to be in the right state of mind so that it can sustain us into the future. And there should be profits from the business. And that's we have, a very sustainable development project. So not applying this Equator Principle raises concerns about the negative effects of the investment on any aspect, either social environments that is under consideration. And lending institutions will run away from them. So we can see that it does have manifold benefits. Now, what are those Equator Principles? There are 10 core principles. We'll take a brief look at them. Generally, one is the project review and categorization, environmental and social assessments, applicable environmental and social standards, environmental and social management system and Equator Principles action, stakeholder engagement, grievance mechanism, independent review, covenants, independent monitoring and reporting and transparency. And if you look at similar frameworks for both the Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, IFC, you will find a lot of similarities in the requirements of this principle and those other frameworks as well. So let's go to principle 1, project review and categorization. Okay, before we go into the principle, we may also want to look at how these projects try to synergize, how these standards try to synergize to make the things more applicable. So the Equator Principle Association and IFC join forces to improve banks' capacity to manage environmental and social risks. IFC standard as a comprehensive approach to environmental and social risk management for private investment in emerging markets. They are considered an international benchmark. And then the Equator Principles also correlates with it. Lots of decisions were made because of appropriate application of the principles. They were not doing it to tick the box, they were doing it to do the right thing, and a lot of things. Okay, so the projects aligned with Equator Principles and internationals is strictly follow the guidelines set by the ADB, the Asian Development Bank, and the World Bank, and ensure that all the project activities were in line with international standards. They even mentioned it a world-class standard. And it helps in enhancing their project sustainability and ensuring the well-being of the community. So, environmental and social risk can effectively manage based on that. How about the implementation of the LARAP? Was meticulously implemented to improve the livelihoods and infrastructure of both resettled and host communities. They didn't just dump them on them and make them fight each other. So detailed strategies for replacing, upgrading village assets and services and ensuring that the affected communities experience tangible improvements in their living conditions were done. So the training, capacity building, for them to acquire skills and live appropriately. Someone had also highlighted how they had presented contracts arrangements, contract shared that the communities must be doing, people were employed. Let's see the other lessons learned. Prioritizing sustainable productivity. The projects carefully selected locations that would have the least negative impact on the environment, while providing long-term economic and social benefits. Like we had mentioned earlier, they were not fastidious, that it had to be here. Where is the best place? So for them to have been able to do that, you will tell that they've done like a preliminary impact assessment. Some project financing come with from PPG, project preparatory grants. That's what it's supposed to be used for, to say, okay, what is the best way? What are the alternatives that we would look at on this project? And they did that. So this involved thorough environmental assessment and consultation with local communities to ensure that the chosen site will support sustainable productivity, particularly in agriculture and fishing. Details planning, community consultations, provision of necessary support to the affected communities to facilitate transition, and there was adequate monitoring and evaluation of the implementation of the law. Social and environmental assessment. From the initial phase, the project conducted comprehensive social and environmental assessment to understand the potential impacts on the community. So if they had not done that, if they were shoddy and said, oh, you know what, let's not do it that big because we want to save costs, they would not have been able to develop a comprehensive plan like this. So they achieved that success because the environmental and social assessment was as comprehensive as it needed to be. And so this is a very key lesson that we must learn. Regardless of how much we want to cut down on the finance, let's make sure we're doing the right thing, because if we do not pay it at upfront, you will pay it later. I've seen a project where they were going to a community to do something and they didn't engage the right people. So they went to engage only the baales, say, well, what's my business with those youth? And eventually they gave the baales promise to do a borehole. The youth later came and said that's not what they wanted. And so they had to spend more, in the long run. Social and environmental assessments should be adequate and just what is required for the project, and not just what we think that we want to do.